Most people believe that life ends in a single moment, a sudden silence, a final breath, a switch that turns off without warning. But in reality, the body rarely works that way. It speaks first, quietly, gradually in patterns most people overlook until much later. And these patterns are not meant to create fear. They are meant to create awareness. Because when you understand what the body is trying to communicate, you don't panic. You prepare. You support. You love more intentionally. Today we are going to talk about 6 signs that medical professionals and caregivers often observe in elderly individuals who may be approaching the final stage of life. But before we continue, let me be very clear. These signs are not a diagnosis. They are patterns. Every human being is different, and no single sign defines a person's journey. My name is Dr. James, a urologist with 12 years of clinical experience working with older adults, especially in long-term care and chronic illness management. And what I want to share with you today is not fear, it is understanding. Now, let's begin. Sign number 1, a deep and persistent fatigue. This is not ordinary tiredness. This is not the kind of fatigue that improves after sleep or rest. This is a deeper exhaustion, one that feels built into the body itself. An elderly person may begin sleeping longer hours. They may stop engaging in conversations they once enjoyed. Even simple activities like sitting up or eating can feel like effort. And what makes this confusing for families is this. There is no obvious illness progression that explains it, but internally, the body is shifting priorities. Energy is no longer being distributed evenly. Instead, it is being conserved for essential survival functions. What you should understand is this. This is not laziness. It does not decline in character. It is biology entering an energy preservation state. And in this stage, the most powerful support you can offer is not stimulation. It is comfortable presence and permission to rest without guilt. Sign number 2, reduced appetite and gradual weight loss. One of the earliest changes families notice is food. Meals become smaller. Hunger signals weaken. Favorite dishes lose their appeal, and over time, weight begins to drop without intentional dieting. This often creates anxiety in families who respond by encouraging more eating. But medically, this stage is often part of a natural slowing process. As metabolism decreases, the body requires less energy intake. Digestion also becomes slower and less efficient. Forcing large meals can actually create discomfort, bloating, or fatigue. What matters now is not quantity, it is comfortable. Small portions, soft foods, familiar tastes, warm liquids, and most importantly, a peaceful environment during meals. Because at this stage, eating is no longer about performance, it is about ease. Sign number 3, slower recovery from illness. A cold that once lasted 3 days may now last 2 weeks. A minor infection may feel more intense than expected, and recovery takes significantly longer. This is because the immune system gradually becomes less responsive with age. The body still fights, but it fights more slowly. What families often misunderstand is this. It is not always about new illnesses. It is about reduced resilience. So instead of pushing the body to bounce back, the focus should shift to protection, rest, hydration, reduce stress, and careful monitoring. Because in this stage, healing does not come from force. It comes from gentleness. Sign number 4, withdrawal from social interaction. You may notice something subtle at first. Less conversation, less interest in gatherings, more time spent alone. This can be mistaken for depression or emotional decline, but in many cases, it is something deeper. A natural inward shift, a psychological transition toward reflection, revisiting memories, processing emotions, and simplifying social energy. What you should understand is this. Solitude is not always suffering. Sometimes it is preparation. So instead of trying to constantly engage or stimulate conversation, try presence. Sit beside them, hold space, allow silence to exist without pressure. Because in this stage, connection is not measured in words, it is measured in presence. Sign number 5, changes in sleep patterns. Sleep becomes unpredictable. Some individuals begin sleeping during the day, others wake frequently at night. Some cycle between long sleep and wakefulness without clear rhythm. This happens because the body's internal clock begins to weaken. Hormonal regulation shifts and energy cycles become less stable. What families should understand is this: there is no longer a correct sleep schedule to enforce. Instead, the goal is comfort. If the body wants to rest, allow it. If it is awake, provide calmness, not correction, soft lighting, quiet environment, familiar surroundings. Because sleep at this stage is not about structure. It is about relief. Sign number 6, a desire to resolve emotional unfinished business. This is perhaps the most emotionally significant sign. An elderly person may begin talking more about the past. They may reconnect with people they haven't spoken to in years. They may give away personal belongings or express thoughts they never shared before, apologies, forgiveness, gratitude, or emotional stories that feel deeply meaningful. This is not confusion. This is emotional completion, a psychological process of closing internal chapters. What you should understand is this: these moments are not casual conversations. They are legacy moments. So listen carefully without interruption, without rushing, without trying to fix or correct. Just receive. Because sometimes the most important thing you can do is allow someone to be fully heard. If you recognize some of these signs in someone you love, do not panic. Do not assume and do not rush to conclusions. The final stage of life is not only about decline, it can also be a period of clarity, connection, and emotional peace. What matters most at this stage is not adding more time, but adding more meaning to the time that remains. A gentle conversation, a familiar hand held longer than usual, a moment of silence shared without discomfort. These are not small things, they are everything. Because in the end, life is not measured by its length. It is measured by its depth, by the love expressed, by the peace shared, and by the moments that remain in memory long after words fade. This is Dr. James, and if this message brought you value, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We share medical insight, human understanding, and practical guidance designed to help you navigate health with clarity and confidence. And share this with someone who may need it.